So, so pretty much what we're going to be doing is we just click record and we're just going to be talking growth, mindset, personal development, and whatever else comes up. I am reading this off of ChatGPT, by the way.
I
Get us ideas.
love it. First off, can we just appreciate both were petered out?
Peter Millar. Peter Millar, hell yeah. Shout out to Zen Blogs for putting me on Peter Millar. Closets filled of Peter Millar. So
It's amazing. Well, we can't speak too much about them because they're not sponsoring our video.
not yet. Not yet.
That's funny.
All right. So something that I want to start off with by saying is just kind of introducing ourselves and just really talking about the reasoning behind why we're doing this and what really inspired us to begin to do something like this in the first place. You can go ahead and start, please.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Adrian. Um, I am 23 years old, and honestly, for me, I find really, enjoyment out of conversations of growth, personal development, and me and obviously Alan always talk on the phone, and our conversations go for hours and hours and hours. And we've always had that collaborated idea where it's like, what if we just click record one day? And from that moment forward, not only can we speak about our own thoughts, our own beliefs, and growth moments in life, peaks and the valleys, but also be able to share that experience with other people that might be on the same path, might be able to learn from our mistakes, might be able to just, sit down, have some popcorn and watch two brothers have a conversation about, things that truly matter. And not only that, but primarily to grow continually, right? So on this podcast, we have the ability to present ourselves, we have the ability to communicate, and we have the ability to mess up. And I think there's no better way to do that than, just you and I and have conversations and see where it goes.
Sure. I really like that you mentioned that we just click record and just see where it goes. I really like that you said that because in reality, that's all we're doing. Like you said, we talk a lot on the phone where we just bounce ideas and we just encourage each other and we just really learn from each other, right? And at this point, it's simply pressing record and just now it's like we have fun with it. We do it anyway. So it's like, why not just put it out there and have fun with it, right? I mean, if it changes maybe one person's life, like that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Yep.
Anyways, my name is Adan Sendejas. I'm also so happy, bro, that you said Adan. Because it's just, I don't know, for me, it's like Adan is just like, I don't know, So I do want to appreciate that you said Adan. But I'm 25 years old. This is my brother, Adrian Sendejas. And yes, pretty much we love conversations that revolve around growth, personal development in general, finances, financial literacy, stuff like that. So I feel like simple as that. Press record and just see where it takes us. So I think you worded it like exactly the way I would have. So
Yeah, one thing that I want to emphasize is the fact that when we say we're pressing record and having a conversation, we wanted to give a small synopsis of what we find, you know, like fun to talk about, but I don't want to create closed doors or like, very straight, bold lines, because our conversations can go wherever they go. So I didn't want to kind of like create, oh, this is all we're going to talk about, but this is pretty much the majority of things that we talk about. But, there's just maybe we have a conversation down the line that detours somewhere else, right? And then it's like, oh, this is a conversation about this when they said they were talking about this. So I just want to put that out there in a sense that we just talk about whatever comes up, whatever interest our, sparks the conversation.
I feel like we do that a lot already.
Yeah.
We just discuss anything that comes up with, throughout our days or just in general. Like we really enjoy talking about it. So, you know, yeah, I agree with exactly what you said. So let's go ahead and kind of shift it, bro, on what do you feel like you've done so far that is worth recognizing? Or, it could
Mm.
be small, it could be something you did today. something you did last week? Like what was something that you feel like it's worth recognizing?
Yeah, I think this is a beautiful first question. Just because I think this is an amazing way to introduce our conversations. One of the things that I'm most proud of is my relationship with God has increased. I'm much more, religious, much more connected myself spiritually. So my health spiritually has grown. And I just want to say thank God for all the blessings we have and just giving us this opportunity to be able to, sit here in front of the camera and just talk to each other, right? We never go hungry, have a roof over our head. And I ask that he continuously blesses us and other people that are in need. But that's probably one of the biggest things that I'm proud of. And I'm just glad to be able to open up with that, to show that, we'll only do what we do because of God. Yeah, so that's how I would love to open up.
I love that. And I'll tell you why. I feel like at the end of the day, we're able to click record and we're able to have these type of systems and computers and all this because of, just you're showing gratitude ultimately. And I feel like that's an amazing way to, word it out. For me, my grandmother, our Nina, I feel like she's the one who kind of keeps me close to God and appreciating and always remembering. We'll send our little text here and there. Hey, gracias a Dios que tenemos esto, salud, familia, todo eso, everything. For me, it jumps back to the relationships that we have with our family and with our parents and our, ties back to our grandma. That's something that I'm very proud of. I feel like it's very important to fall back on them for any advice or, just be open with them about conversations. Because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be able to click record. We wouldn't be able to be where we're at right now. So I think that's something that we definitely, I think is an amazing way to start off. Like you said, it's a beautiful first question. Like seriously, like it's just without them, guiding us in the route that we've been going, none of this would be possible. So I think I'm really glad you said that to open up kind of that part of things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it all starts with God, and then initially them giving, our family and our, previous generation the will and the strength to, you know, build the life that they've given us, right? Um, I think that the foundation that they've created for us is truly like it's everything. So, in order for us to begin our journey, I think that it was important to start off with them, primarily. And one thing that I want to say, if anybody's listening, if you are not in the same position that we're given a blessing to a start, um I definitely can feel for you. But one thing that I would love to recommend is, always do never look at life through the lens of a victim, because that doesn't benefit you in any way. Now this might sound arrogant from somebody who, my parents obviously gave us blessings to, be able to have a roof over our head and, have lucky beginnings because we truly are blessed. Um, but that doesn't have to be the case, right? Everything in this world is your fault. And that's something that I truly believe in. Just that way you can have control of everything and negotiate your own reality. So if you're in a tougher position than anyone else around you, just know that you have total control. And with God by your side, you can do anything. So
I love
um,
that. Bro, you impress me that you're a very seasoned virtual communicator. Like just your background and everything is just like, with the Zoom and everything as we discussed, like I really like that. You just very, it's just you're very composed and it's just I see that. You're a very seasoned Zoom meeting holder. You could whatever you want to call it. So anyway,
yeah.
something that I want to jump to real quick that I feel like we've spoke about in our previous podcast or previous videos that we recorded, of course, have not publicized is what is one book that you would recommend to anybody out there who wants to I guess get in that personal development field? What is that one book that just comes to mind?
There's so many, man. I one of the biggest books that changed my entire life was I think it's Your Best Life Now. by Joel Osteen. He's a pastor and he wrote that book. And it's a mixture of, not just religion, but more life. Um, and that book really changed my life. It really changed it spiritually and who I am as a person. I read a lot of different books based on different topics on what I'm trying to achieve. So, anytime I go reading into a book, I'm trying to look at what I'm trying to get out of the book. But just an overall recommendation to somebody, I will always recommend that book. There's many others based on different topics, but I think that's one of the overall best that touched me nearly or dearly to my heart and just impacted my life in every day that I live. I truly do go back to the things I've read in that book. So that's what I would recommend. But um, I would love to hear yours as well.
That's awesome. Honestly, I haven't really thought about, I have never heard of that book. Actually, I don't remember you ever bringing that up, but for me, it's going to be Rich Dad Poor Dad. I mean, like it's funny. I've spoke to different people and they'll come to me and say, that's a cliche book. That's one of those books that it's like,
Mhm.
hasn't read it, but I believe that is a really good book for any young, entrepreneur slash hustler slash, I want to grow, I want to learn, like that's a fundamental, that's a foundation type book where you get into it and it really teaches you the basics, assets, liabilities equals, assets minus liabilities equals net worth. Simple as that, right? And then once you get into it, it's almost like, okay, what's an asset? How do I get that? What's a liability? Should I stay away? Is this a good life? Like, so I think for me, that's probably a good one of my favorite books. Of course, it is a little towards the finance world, but to me, that's probably one of my favorite books that I've read that I strongly recommend. So,
Yeah. One thing that I can say about that is you're very right. It's very generalized, very passed around a lot. I mean, it's been the number one business book in the world for the past 2 decades. So, I mean, I'm sure you hear it a lot. But the thing that I like most about that book is it's the first book that ever introduced a different side, the different mindset, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not about finances, it's not about assets, it's not about companies and business and everything. It starts at the core. It starts at the mindset of what you have, between, the real wealth is 6 inches between your ears, right? So when you have that mind, it needs to be reformed into what you're trying to accomplish, right? So it doesn't matter what you do, right? If someone wants to become a professional in their career, their mindset has to be, formed towards that outcome, right? So in your case, right, it's about finances, it's about business. So that mindset creates the right shift that we needed to go down that right path. So I can, I agree heavily towards that.
I do, yeah, that's what it is, bro. Um, I think something that I do want to touch base on is what do you got going on this weekend? Today's a very lovely Friday night. Um, I don't know how else I would spend it, other than of course being with my fianza, Alalis. But what do you got going on tonight? What do you got going on this weekend?
Yeah, so the rest of this night I've dedicated to our podcast here. But as far as this weekend goes, I probably gonna hang out with some friends. Um, as you know, I live currently in Atlanta, Georgia. I have a great surrounding, great environment. I have a community of people around me that, inspire me. Just I have the right group of people around me. So it'll probably consist of hanging out with them. I will pick up, some friends as well from the airport. Just hang out. I really don't have too set of plans as far as like set in stone. My weekends are pretty lenient, but the thing is that I try to book my, schedule up with priorities as they come. So, this weekend, my priority is, hang out with friends and go out, be exposed to the world, be exposed to other people, have conversations with people, really interact with the world. I think that, since social media and all of this all of these things that isn't bad, to each their own, but I think it's really it's numb people to human interaction. I always walk down the street or down a store and I like say hello to somebody and they look at me like I just murdered somebody. Like they look at me like, what is this weirdo talking? Why is he talking to me? And it's funny because like when was the last time you can just have a genuine conversation with somebody, right? And I think it's very important to me to have human interactions and just be out into the world where, things can change, life can change, God can, bring blessings to you. And that can't really happen if you're locked up in your room on, Instagram all day. Which I used to be that kind of person, but now I just like to go outside. I like to, you know, just mix things up, kind of not have the same routine over and over unless I have, meetings or things that I have to really lock into. But um, yeah, that's pretty much my weekend. But I'd love to ask you the same question.
Excuse me. I really like that I asked you about your weekend, and it's almost like you reminded me of how much I appreciate the fact that I've learned to be outgoing and speaking to people from you, right? I've learned that, and I love that I simply asked you, what are you doing this weekend? And it led to this for me to realize the importance of it. I'm a very reserved kind of person. Of course, I'm working, always working student to the game, right? But over the last few months, couple months, I feel like I've learned to be very, like you say, just say hi, It's like life's too short to not say hi to people and just smile and just, give that positive energy. Just so I do appreciate that of you. I think I've learned that a lot to just go out there and just, hey, how you doing today? Or, hey, this and that.
Which I
So,
did hear you. I was on the phone with you. You were walking Cleo,
right, that's right.
your
Today,
dog,
actually,
and I heard you. You're
yeah,
having conversations with your neighbor. Hey, how you guys doing? Hey,
yeah,
have a good rest of your day. I was
yeah,
like, man, okay, I see you.
yeah. And
Love that.
I'm telling you, it's just something that I've kind of started to pick up on that I feel like, because why not? Why do I want to walk by somebody and not say something at least? I've always been that person where I'm very shy or whatever, and I won't say anything. So I think that learning that from you has really helped with just smile more, smile more, worry less type thing. So anyways, this weekend, well, actually what I'm doing is the company I work for, Flight Builders, they'll actually be doing a block party where we all get together, play games, eat, drink, and really just almost like expose the name, like Flight Builders, and just do it like it's just to get the name out there of the product that we're building, and so I think that's going to be very neat. We'll do that this weekend, and then me and Dow will be out and probably grab some lunch on Sunday.
Okay, and Dao is your fiance, Aldalis, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
Dallas is my fiance. Yes, she is my significant other, my life, my everything.
I love it. That's beautiful.
And then we got Cleo over here sleeping. So,
Cleo is who?
Cleo's our puppy. She's sleeping right now. Cleo,
Okay, I love it.
she's in
One
right.
one thing I just wanted to kind of first off, that's amazing that you have that hanging out with the group of people. It reminded me to shed light on how important it is to have community. Like it's so important to have a community of people, a community of whatever interests you. Um, because it's just so powerful to have people around you that have the same mindset, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be the same as ours, but just your own. Be sure to find a community, be sure to be surrounded by people that share the same thought or just that make you feel good. I think that's very important. And one other thing that I wanted to mention, and honestly, I think would be a great topic for our first conversation. If you think otherwise, please let me know. But it's it was very powerful because I heard you say two things, and I'm sure you're gonna be like, "Oh, I'm a broken record because I say this all the time." But you said that you were reserved and you were shy.
Mhm.
And I strongly believe that the words that we speak are very, very, very powerful. And it leads me to the thought of like, what is your identity? And I think this is such a powerful topic because people create their own identities without realizing it, and they create a ceiling within themselves that people don't realize they have. And the reality is, you're not reserved, you're not shy, you are just representing shy and reserved behavior. And you have like repeated that behavior over and over and over and over again to the point where you believe you are reserved or you are shy. But you are not reserved or shy. You just keep repeating the behaviors. And because you've done it so much, it has become such a normal, comfortable feeling that anytime you act outside of that behavior, you feel very uncomfortable. So then you believe that, oh, I can't do that because I'm reserved. So, and I know you're growing out of it, but it's very powerful to say I'm working on my people skills rather than saying I'm a reserved person. So it's
Yeah.
very careful with the words that we speak, I think is a very important topic.
And it's so funny that you say that because the second, I kid you not, the second I said that, I felt like it was gonna come back to you say because you do it, like I said, on our conversations on the phone, where I'll say something and you're like, no, you're not that. It's just you're showing the behavior of being that. But it's like you say, where your mind is, your mind's strong, your mind catches onto any little thing that you say, right? I actually sent a reel to Dow the other day. And it pretty much said that when you say I can't, I'll try, or I wish. Those are like the top three words where it ties to what you're saying. It's like the more you say I can't, you're right. You won't be able to, Or you saying I'll try. You're probably not. You're gonna say I'll try, but not do it. Or I wish. That's another one. It's like I wish it was like this. I would just figure it out for it to become true, right? It's almost as if you wish it probably won't happen. You're just saying that because it's like way out of your arm's reach, you could
Yeah.
say.
And it's crazy because it needs to start from within. It needs to start from the core. I remember the Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within. He's such a powerful speaker. I love that man. He talks about if somebody had quit smoking and they, finally gave it up. If someone offered you a cigarette, you wouldn't ask them what kind is it. You would not even think about it because you've identified yourself as a non-smoker. So when people say I'm gonna quit or I don't smoke anymore, you don't say that. You say I'm not a smoker. I've identified at the core your identity, and now your mind creates the rest of your body to act based on that identity that you've given yourself, right? So if someone says I'm not a smoker, they've identified themselves as someone who doesn't smoke. So now the rest of your mind and the rest of your body falls in line with that identity. So it's very powerful to think like it all starts from within, like who you are. And that's why I said identity is such a powerful like topic. It really is to, you know, have an understanding of who you need to be. Because I've always told you this, and I'll pass it right over to you to get your thoughts. Like, we always think that we're pursuing a certain outcome and a certain result that we're trying to achieve. But in reality, it's it's not an outcome that we're trying to pursue, it's an identity that we're trying to become. Because once you become a certain person, then the results are attracted based on the person that you've become, right? So someone like yourself that's becoming a builder, becoming like a having his own company within the real estate industry, it's not like you're trying to find the homes or you're trying to get learn how to build the homes. You're learning how to be a builder, and then the results will be attracted to you based on the identity that you've chosen.
I love that you say that because you say Tony Robbins, right? But you remember we were speaking yesterday or the other day about Jim Rohn, right? So Jim Rohn was Tony Robbins' mentor,
Rest in peace.
right? Yes, and Jim Rohn says it's not about what you get out of a job, it's what you become from that job, right? So I'll give you an example. When I became a framer, really quick, I didn't become a framer because I was like, oh, wow, this is just another job, whatever. I became a framer, I feel like, to learn that skill. So it's not what you get out of the job, it's who you become out of the job. So if you arrive to this job, no matter what it is, 9 to 5, anything, serving it like we did, in our 5, 6 years ago, it's about who you become in that position rather than trying to get, the money or, and if when Jim Rohn says, if you think that way, it's just the amount of growth that you can, you know, the person you can become if you shift your mind, it goes back to exactly what you said. Who are we in within ourselves? Who are we trying to become? What can we use? What job 9 to 5 can we use or work at to become this person, right? So
You know, that it's so powerful that you say that because I think a lot of people they listen to, Instagram or social media and people are flexing money or flexing clothing or flexing cars. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's amazing, whatever makes you happy, but it creates an illusion that people should be paper chasing or bag chasing. That was me. I used to always say I'm getting after the bag, but we need to understand that the true value comes within. The true value comes from a skill set. Because if you're only going to take a position for the paycheck, well, eventually, let me give you my example. So I won't speak generally. I was a server. I was making the peak amount a server could make, in my opinion, because I was a snowbird. I was chasing the busy season, making great money year round. And when I realized this, I said, I've reached the capacity of a server. Like I no longer can make more money than this because of the fact that my skill set had become capped. And what I mean by that is you are compensated in the marketplace based on the value that you can add. And in a value added as a server, I can be replaced like this. And it doesn't matter how much hours or how much time I trade, I will only get a certain amount of compensation in return because the skill set isn't that intensified, right? So when it comes to you, you've created a skill set within the building because you became a framer, not for the paycheck, but for the skill set. And now you've developed a higher skill set that other people don't have. Now you're rewarded that much more. So now you've made more money than I would have made as a server in probably the same, if not less amount of time because of the fact that you've developed skills that are now worth more valuable in the marketplace. So, with that being said, I'll pass it over to you. But why do you think it's important for people to focus on a skill set rather than just the money? Why, if you can just dive a little bit deeper on that topic?
so first and foremost, I do want to mention that because of Gustavo Chavez HGC Framing LLC,
Hey,
because of him, I am where I'm at today. And of course, there's still a lot, I still have a long road ahead of me. And, I've learned a lot. I've made mistakes. I've grown. And, it all comes back to appreciating him for everything he did. So I definitely want to get that and, bring that up. But back to your question. In my opinion, the reason why it's so important is because any job you go to, any place you interview for, they're always going to go back to your mindset. They're always going to go back to how stable you are, right? If you're a person who's just jumping around from job to job and doesn't have and can remain focused on a task or on the daily task that you have to do at work, it goes back to who you can become as a person. What value can I bring to the marketplace, like you said, right? So I believe it's important because it goes a longer way than just that paycheck. It's more important. Hey, can I drive this project from A to B? Do I have that type of value, whether it's communication, whether it's listening, leadership skills, those are all part of things that I feel like you and I are also just working on. And it's the reasoning behind this type of record in progress, right? And it leads back to that. It leads back to who you can become in that workplace, and the significance of how much value can you bring to a company, you know?
yeah. And it's funny because I if only people knew this to break it down. I think you've known me for my whole life. So you know that anytime there's a topic that comes into play, I need to break it down to the bottom, like beginning position, right? And what I mean by that is like when someone thinks like, oh, a doctor. right? A doctor gets paid so much money. Oh yeah, doctors, they get paid well, right? But we got to break that down and understand, why are they being paid so well? Well, because they have learned and developed a skill set that is hard to find in the marketplace, because not just anybody has it. They've created value within themselves because of what they've learned and what they've gone through. Do you think in the 6, 7, 8 years of college that they were going through to study and to become valuable, they were getting a huge amount of paychecks, a massive amount of money? No. That was not, that's not the case, right? But the fact is, in that time frame, they were working on the skill set. They were working on their own value, not value as a person, because we're all equally as valued. We're all humans, and we're made in the creation in the eyes of God. So we're all the same in that portion. But as far as the value that we can add to the marketplace differs based on how we're investing our time. A lot of people love to invest their time to get a paycheck in the easiest possible way. But in reality, we should be investing our time into ourselves, so then we can create more value within ourselves, and then we'll be more valuable, and then we'll be compensated higher in return.
Mhm. I like that you mentioned the like the you jumped to the doctor, right? Because I also do want to give credits to it, to Dow for, for our new chapter in life and everything. And she's one of the people that have inspired me along the way with my journey and everything, since back in Mackinac Island, where I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And, it was one of those points in my life where it's like, it's okay to reflect on it, where I wasn't at my highest per se. I wasn't, I was still trying to figure it out. I was still learning, growing. And the fact that, Dow was with me through that, with her, her going into the medical field as becoming a veterinarian, is just, it was very inspiring to see her be by my side, although I was still looking for my passion and my journey. It's very, I mean, my all my respect to her, that she put in the time to learn those skills, and she wasn't being paid for that all of that time, just like you said, right? So, but now it's like she's finally graduated. Congratulations to her. And she's starting to realize the value that she brings to these clients. She's saving dogs' lives, right? She's helping them out with their broken legs, their wounds. She's going to surgery, right? You can't just do that in a year. You have to go through 8 years of just school and day, night, day, night, day, night, day. It's not easy. She had to go through all of that. And like you said, she was not paid for it. So to me, like the first thing that I thought about in that situation when you said is delayed gratification. That's another thing, right? Those nights, those long nights where she thought and said, this exam, am I going to pass it? She was frustrated, like it's all part of the journey. And she had to go through all of that to learn the skills and become the person, the doctor she is now. So I think that ties in very, very well to what we're speaking about with growing our skills, growing ourselves. At the end of the day, it becomes valuable to the workplace. People are willing to pay for surgery on my dog, right? If you want to bring your dog over, Dow can take care of your dog. She's learned that over the years. So she is valuable. She's going to become valuable to our community, right? To our neighbor. That's the value that she created, right? So, anyways, Adrian, something that I do want to say real quick. I feel like we have kind of jumped, to different places to get a
Mhm.
gist of what exactly we're going to talk about on when we click record. But what's something that we can kind of close out and just kind of summarize what we've done? And we've given a little experience on what we'll do, what we'll talk about. And I think in the future we can kind of speak more on a topic and maybe cut the videos a little shorter, maybe longer. Like we'll play around with it, right? It's just like we said at the beginning, it's something we've really enjoyed. So if you want to go ahead and just kind of close it out and see where it goes.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just want to appreciate God for our very first podcast. I want to thank you for, bringing up this idea. We've always had this idea together, but because of you, tonight happened. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be on this Zoom call. So I just wanted to edify you for, jumping on the gun and having this, started today. And last thing I want to say is I hope everybody that's viewing this is viewing it, through a lens of positivity, of love, of, just understand that we're here not because we're perfect, not because we know what we're talking about, not because we're trying to teach other people, but we love conversations. I love podcasts. I love listening to other people talk. I love people challenging my beliefs. Although this podcast was very mutual, I can probably guarantee down the road you will have a different belief than I will, Adan, and we will challenge each other's beliefs and have a friendly conversation. I think one of the things that I like to say is people get offended when they're criticized or when their beliefs are challenged. But I love that. I truly have a passion for having debates. I'm sure you've known, and any of those who know me since a kid, I've always loved to have debates. And it's very fascinating to be challenged, to have conversations about topic that truly matters. And there's so much hate, there's so much negativity and in the world. And I hope that this podcast is the beginning to something beautiful within us, within anybody watching, and the ripple effect of the positivity, the love, the great energy from this podcast can continue to expand and grow to other people. So thank you so much for the exit. I'll love to hear your exit thoughts.
That's amazing, bro. I love it. I feel like I don't have to say anything else. That's amazing. The one statement that I want to say is we're living and we're learning. Simple as that. We, like you said, we're not perfect. We are students. We will remain students. We are self-aware that we do not know everything. We're self-aware that we are still making mistakes. The important part about it is that we're realizing the mistakes and not making them again, at least for the most part. And that's what it's about. Positivity, spreading it. If anybody's watching that, and I think eventually down the road we can bring people on, some of our buddies, Leo, Diego, shout out to them. Ricky. I mean, just a few people that just kind of come to mind, right? That just, you just want to you see, at least you see what they're doing, right? Like Ricky with Subway and everything, Diego with Slapper Rap, Leo with his engineering stuff. It's very inspiring, right? And at the end of the day, I feel like we're all living this life for the first time. We're all just trying to learn as much as we can from each other, So I think that is, like you said, we're passionate about having these conversations. And it's as simple as click and record that we finally started. So, last thing is very, very grateful for everything, for you, bro, for everything, for always, being there for me when, we have our conversations and stuff like that. Our mom, we just got off the phone with her. Alejandra Sendejas, teacher, Felsenburg Elementary. Guillermo Sendejas, our dad, right? Baller, basketball. Um,
Manager of Riverfront Packing House.
that's right. That's
Shout
right.
out to him.
It always falls back to just giving it back, and just we're really grateful for everything that we've accomplished. It's small, right? We're not, we're young guys, we're still learning, making mistakes, growing. Live and learn. That's it. Live and learn. Simple as that. So I think this has been amazing, bro. I'm very excited. I'm very happy. So that's it. We did
Awesome. Well, thanks for watching, guys.
it.